Hey there, Fro Football Podcast listeners, coming at you with our last-minute NFL podcast mock draft. You know, I don't do a lot of these mock drafts because I don't think they often hold a whole lot of weight. But when you get closer and closer to draft night, there's a bigger opportunity for you to really figure out who's going to take who. And I'm going to try to give you my rundown of who I think each team is going to take in the first round. So kicking it off with the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns have a lot of needs. Obviously, being the worst team in the league last year, they have depth needs at quarterback, at defensive end, at defensive back. But this year, there is no question the consensus number one pick is going to be Myles Garrett. Defensive end or outside linebacker, depending how they use him. He is going to be the pick in the first round. The Cleveland Browns have a lot of flexibility here because they have another pick in the first round, the number 12 pick. So I expect them to shore up this defensive side of things with the first pick in the draft with a potentially generational type of player like Myles Garrett, and they'll pick up their quarterback a little bit later. But that'll be the first pick in the draft, my prediction, as well as many others. The San Francisco 49ers, they need help at quarterback. You know, the Kaepernick is gone. You know, the Blaine Gabbert thing isn't working. They need help at quarterback. But obviously this year it's not a quarterback year. They also need outside linebacker and offensive line help. I actually think they're going to go defense, and I think they're going to already shock people with the number 2 pick, and they're going to take Derek Barnett at number 2. I know that's not a popular pick at number 2, but that's where I feel like the 49ers can make their biggest impact. They need an edge rusher. They need someone on that defensive line who could really have a presence. When their offense has so many issues, you got to shore up that defense first. A lot of teams talk about how we have to have someone protect the quarterback. You don't even have a quarterback right now. Brian Hoyer is your number 1 quarterback. So I don't see the focus being on the offensive line right now because I don't even think they have a plan in place to get a new quarterback. So instead, they could become one of the best defenses in the league faster than they could become one of the best offenses in the league. That's why I'm going with Derek Barnett. In the third slot, the Chicago Bears, needing help in the backfield. They need defensive backs. They need offensive linemen. They need tight ends. I think in this pick, the custom pick for them is safety Jamal Adams. The Chicago Bears have been notoriously bad for several years at the safety position. This is an opportunity for them to make a change and go in a direction with a nice young body who's going to step right in day one and be your number 1 starter at a position of critical need. So Jamal Adams, safety, going to the Bears at 3. At 4, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have needs all over the place too. Last year, heading into the season, everybody thought that they were going to potentially take a huge leap and maybe even challenge for the division. And that didn't happen. You know, Blake Bortles took huge steps backwards. He really regressed. They need help at tight end. They traded away Julius Thomas. They need D-tackle help. They need offensive line help. My personal opinion, I think they're going defensive lineman. They're taking Solomon Thomas. I think this would help shore up their defensive line. This will give them some depth at the position, and they'll get themselves a really versatile defensive player that can help them take some pressure off the quarterback in the offense by keeping them, getting other teams off the field quickly and giving the offense more time to work. That's just my opinion. Tennessee Titans sitting in number 5. They have, again, needs all over the board. But when you look at their needs, I think it makes their pick just blaringly obvious. They need inside linebacker help, and they need wide receiver help. But what they need help with more than anything is at cornerback. And in this draft, there is only one cornerback I think is on the level of being the man at the position, and that's cornerback Marshawn Lattimore. I think he's going to the Tennessee Titans. The New York Jets. Now, a lot of people have the Jets looking at a quarterback, and I thought about that for quite a while, but the reality is, I know that they have a stopgap quarterback in place. They don't necessarily feel, they're obviously not going to compete for anything this year. Josh McCown will hold things down for him for a year. I don't think the quarterback is going to be their first need. They need help at outside linebacker. They need help at cornerback. My prediction is they go linebacker, Hassan Reddick, coming to the New York Jets. At number 7, you have the Los Angeles Chargers. That's going to take a long time for me to get used to that. For anybody who knows me, I'm a huge San Diego Chargers fan. I don't want to say the words Los Angeles Chargers in the same breath. It just kills me. But they need help all over the place. Wide receiver, defensive end, guard, defensive back help. And actually, in this situation, I think they're going to go away from their first couple needs. I think they're going to go with the defensive backs. I think they're taking safety Malik Hooker. I really do. I think he's going to be a perfect fit for their system. I think he's one of the things they need to really bring that defense up to another level and really start to focus on shutting down other teams. Their offense scored plenty of points last year. The issue was on defense. They couldn't stop anybody else from scoring. So I think Malik Hooker would be a great addition to that team. The Carolina Panthers need help at tackle, offensive tackle. They need help at defensive end. And, their running back situation is not favorable. You know, if you think about it, they've had Jonathan Stewart for the better part of forever, and it's time to move on. You know, it's time to get the next back in there, and I think this is the perfect opportunity for them to take running back Leonard Fournette. Probably the best running back in the draft, going to have a beautiful future in front of him, and I really don't think any teams could keep letting him slip down the board. This is I know in the past couple years, running backs were not a hot commodity, and then last year you have Ezekiel Elliott, and he kind of throws a bone into that whole thing, and I think this year the Panthers are going to be the team to jump on the running back rookie of the year. At number 9, the Cincinnati Bengals need help on the offensive line. They need linebacker help. They need defensive line help, specifically at defensive end. This pick, I think they go linebacker, and I think they go Reuben Foster. I think Reuben Foster would do wonders for them to shore up the center of their field, be able to take some tight ends out of the equation. In a division where you see a lot of tight end passing plays, I think they need to get that linebacker spot nailed down. Reuben Foster would be a great way to do that. The Buffalo Bills, they need defensive back help. They need wide receiver help. They need offensive tackle help. But what they need more than anything, just my opinion, is an identity. Who the heck are the Buffalo Bills? They're nobody right now. So you need somebody who's going to become the franchise. I like Tyrod Taylor. I really do. But I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. And that's why I think the Buffalo Bills take Deshaun Watson, the quarterback, to start off their draft. At pick number 11, the New Orleans Saints, coming off of their huge signing today of Adrian Peterson, the Saints, they have needs all over the place too. Defensive back, linebacker, wide receiver, especially wide receiver, now that they traded away their best target, but I don't think they're going to go that direction. And in light of what's been going on lately, today the news broke about the potential charges coming against Connolly. I actually had them slated to take Gareon Conley today. I wrote my list today. I'm looking at it now. After that news broke, I did not revise my list, but I'm gonna stick with it. Why not? You know, who am I answering to? You know, I gotta stick with my gut. You know, the kid has been accused of something. They haven't proven anything. I don't think we're gonna know by draft time. But he's a great talent. I can't imagine that everybody in the league is going to pass on the kid. I'm going to stick with it. The Cleveland Browns in at number 12. They're finally going to get their quarterback. They're going to take quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. He's been in love with the team. They're all over him for weeks now. I think it's just waiting to happen. So keep your eyes on that at number 12. Cleveland Browns finally get their quarterback. Maybe, potentially, they finally get a franchise quarterback. It's been forever since anybody could say that about the Browns. Moving on, number 13. The 13th pick in the draft goes to the Arizona Cardinals. They have needs all over the place, and I do not think they're going to draft for need. I think they need inside linebacker help, quarterback help, defensive back help, but that I don't think is what they're going to take. Something that the Arizona Cardinals have not had a sufficient player of in years would be the tight end position. This is where I think O.J. Howard goes to the Arizona Cardinals. You got Larry Fitzgerald, who's playing a lot of slot time and who had like a renaissance career year last year. He can't play forever. Dude's like 34 years old. He questions whether he's coming back or not each year. He's probably my favorite player of the last 10 years. But the truth is they need another target, and they need a reliable, solid, big target. That's what O.J. Howard can be. And if for some reason Larry Fitzgerald starts to go in the decline, you have somebody who can pick up the slack. At the 14th pick, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm here in Philadelphia. I hear their conversation every day on sports talk radio. I've heard every person's opinion there is, and the reality is this. I've heard people say they're going to take a running back. They're going to take wide receiver. They're going to take Mike Davis. They're going to take Christian McCaffrey. The Eagles have one need that supersedes them all, and that's cornerback. Tre'Davious White is going to the Philadelphia Eagles at 14. That's what they need to do. And I don't think the fans in Philadelphia where the draft is being held are going to boo him out of the building for taking a premier cornerback to be their starting cornerback. I think that's just something they have to do. I understand trying to get weapons for Carson Wentz. He did that already in free agency. Even if they don't both pan out. You gave him something for this year. You can get a wide receiver next year or in the second or third rounds. But this is a situation you have to get some cornerback depth. They have nothing right now on the roster. So Tre'Davious White goes to the Philadelphia Eagles at 14. At 15, the Indianapolis Colts need help. Offensive line, defensive line, running back. They need help all over the place. Jonathan Allen, defensive lineman, going to the Indianapolis Colts at 15. The Baltimore Ravens, again, a team that needs help all over the place. Offensive line, outside linebacker, cornerback, wide receiver. But I don't think the Ravens can pass on opportunity to have an all-pro player on their team, and I think that's exactly what wide receiver Mike Williams will be for the Baltimore Ravens. They took Brashad Perriman a couple years ago, has not worked out. They need a wide receiver to replace the production of Steve Smith now that he's retired, and I think Mike Williams would be the perfect replacement for Steve Williams on the outside for the Baltimore Ravens. So, Mike Williams to the Ravens at 16. At 17, the Washington Redskins needing help at linebacker, safety, running back. They need help a little bit, pretty much everywhere. This is where I think you're going to see linebacker Tekance McKinley go to the Washington Redskins. They've always been notorious for having great linebacker depth on their defense, going back years and years before the whole Shanahan era, the last Shanahan era. But I think in this situation, I think you're going to see them take a linebacker to really shore up their defense. At 18, the second time the Titans are picking in this round, the Tennessee Titans, again, as we said before, they needed help at cornerback. They got that earlier. They still need help at wide receiver and inside linebacker, and that's why I think they're going to take wide receiver Corey Davis. Corey Davis would shore up their offensive capabilities. They've got some decent role players on offense. I think between the two running backs and all the contributions they got last year from their wide receivers, I think that this would really shore up their offense and give them an opportunity to really compete, and Mariota to have somebody of substance to throw the ball to other than just one player. Number 19, Tampa Bay Buccaneers come in. They have a lot of needs, and I know they need help at defensive line, they need safety help, they need running back help, but the reality is this. I know Doug Martin has come back to the team. I know he's working out with the team. One, he's getting older. Two, he's now has a history with issues within the league. They have to start thinking about the post-Doug Martin era, and it's obviously not going to be Jacquizz Rodgers, so I'm picking Christian McCaffrey to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19. At number 20, the Denver Broncos needing help at offensive tackle, inside linebacker, defensive end, and I think they address the tackle position. I think they really want to fortify the offensive line and try to help Trevor Siemian out, and I think in this situation, they're going to take tackle Cam Robinson. At 21, the Detroit Lions with needs all over the place, defensive end, linebacker, wide receiver, running back, and the Detroit Lions, I think this time they're going to go defense as well. There's a deep draft at linebacker, and I think they're taking Jared Davis for linebacker position for the Detroit Lions at 21. 22 has the Miami Dolphins. They have open needs at linebacker, offensive guard, cornerback. This particular situation, I don't think they address any of those specifically. I think they take offensive tackle, Garrett Bowles. I think they take him because then you create some versatility on the offensive line. You could shift some guys around, fill your need at guard by taking another big tackle who could be a stalwart of your line for years to come. The New York Giants needs it. They have to get a new left tackle. That's killing them. Middle linebacker, and Eli Manning's like 36 years old. You got to start thinking about a replacement for Eli Manning. And I hate to say that because I have no problem with Eli playing another 5 years. His brother can do it, so can he. But they have to start thinking about that. But not this year in the first round. This year, I think they're taking a tackle. Ryan Ramczyk is going to go to the New York Giants at 23. 24, the Oakland Raiders need help at middle linebacker, defensive tackle, but more than anything, cornerback. This is where I think Marlon Humphrey goes to the Oakland Raiders, taking that team that much closer to a Super Bowl. Last year, I think if they didn't have an injury to Derek Carr, I think they would have been going to the Super Bowl. I really do. I think they were the one team that could have beat the Patriots had Derek Carr been playing. And now you'll have a better defense to stop Tom Brady. Should you meet again in the playoffs, I think this would be a great addition to their team. Houston Texans at 25 need help at quarterback, outside offensive line, linebacker, and this is where I think we see guard Forrest Lamp go so they can shore up that offensive line, because whoever they put behind center on that team is going to need help, and they're going to need a lot of it. The team last year put up points, with Brock Osweiler and a whole host of mishmash quarterbacks punching in and doing their time, but the reality is they don't have a real serviceable quarterback right now. So whoever you put back there, you got to have some blocking for him. Now, I said that I kind of went a different direction for the 49ers, who also don't have a quarterback, but in this situation, I think the Houston Texans are closer to competing for a division than the 49ers ever will be. So I do think you need to provide some protection when you're a team like the Texans after you're coming off of a playoff appearance. So look for them to take a guard to shore up that offensive line. The Seattle Seahawks at 26 26. They have needs all over the place. Offensive tackle, D tackle, cornerback. But you know, the truth is, I don't think the Seattle Seahawks are going to pass on someone with breakaway burner speed. And I say that because their wide receivers are lacking. They've got one stud wide receiver. Outside of that, they've got pretty much garbage. They've got question marks due to injuries, lack of production in recent years. So I think this is where we see the Seahawks take wide receiver John Ross, fastest man at the combine. I think that's where he ends up going, Seattle Seahawks. At 27, the Kansas City Chiefs have needs at inside linebacker, defensive line, cornerback, but the Chiefs have to start grooming somebody, and I think this is where we see quarterback Pat Mahomes go. This is where I think we see them start to look to replace Alex Smith. I think it's something that's been long overdue. Alex Smith has had a pretty serviceable career. I know he doesn't get a lot of flack being such a high draft pick coming out. He beat out Aaron Rodgers when he was drafted, and he hasn't had anywhere near the success of Aaron Rodgers. But he's been very serviceable, and he doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. He's been a quality quarterback, but it's time to move on, okay? We got to get somebody else in this under center at some point. Pat Mahomes be a good addition. Dallas Cowboys needs a defensive back, needs a defensive end, needs a tight end, and to be honest with you, I think the biggest one of those is the tight end position. You know, how long do they think they're going to be able to get play out of Jason Witten? The guy's been playing. It seems like he's been playing for forever. It's time to move on. David Njoku, tight end, going to the Dallas Cowboys at 28. At 29, the Green Bay Packers needs at cornerback, running back, defensive end, and they're going to address that defensive end. Defensive end, Jordan Willis. Going to go to the Green Bay Packers at 29. Pittsburgh Steelers, look, the Steelers were close last year. They need a little bit of help. They need inside linebacker, outside linebacker, and they need wide receiver help because they still don't have Martavius Bryant back from his suspension. He's hoping, but we don't know where that's going to go. But you have more linebacker issues than anywhere else, and that's where you're going to see a linebacker taken. Linebacker Charles Harris is going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 30. And then at 31, the Super Bowl losing Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, they don't need much to get back to the big dance. They need defensive back help, linebacker, wide receiver help. I think they go linebacker, and I think they take TJ Watt to add to that defense to be that last piece of the puzzle to be able to compete for the championship this year. And the final pick of the first round, the New Orleans Saints getting this pick from the New England Patriots. They have help, they have needs, I should say, all over the place. Defensive back, linebacker, wide receiver. But I think what the position they're going to take is safety, and I think that's where they're going to take Jabril Peppers. So that is my rundown of picks 1 through 32. I'm not one of those people who's going to do 7 rounds of mock drafting because the reality is nobody can pick all that. I'm sure I'm wrong with about 55-60% of these. The only pick I'm fairly confident in is the first pick, Myles Garrett. After that, the whole thing could be blown out of the water. Maybe the Eagles really will take Christian McCaffrey. I don't know, but this is my analysis based on team need, based on where I think their heads are going to be at. And you always know there's always a team that does something that they're not supposed to do. That shakes everything up for every team the rest of the way down the draft board. I think at the end of the day, this is actually a really deep draft for some of the teams. If you're the New Orleans Saints, when are you going to start picking up a quarterback to start replacing Drew Brees? Same thing as we said for Eli Manning. If you're a team like, the San Diego Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, I don't want to say San Diego. I don't want to say Los Angeles yet. I'm still stuck on San Diego. But if you're the Chargers, how long till you start thinking about moving on from Phillip Rivers? The guy's getting up there. Had Phillip Rivers been on a team that actually had a defense his whole career, I kind of wonder, would the guy have had a Hall of Fame career? There are people, I listen to some of the programs out in San Diego, and they still say that they insist he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's hard to do that. He's not putting up Dan Marino's numbers. It's hard to get in the Hall of Fame with no Super Bowl rings or appearances even. I've heard things about Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb at least appeared in the Super Bowl and won and was in a bunch of NFC championship games. Phillip Rivers has done nothing of that level. So, and I love the Chargers, but let's be real. So, they've got to move on. There's a lot of quarterback need out there. A lot of cornerbacks this year. It's a deep draft for that. I think the Eagles, and I'm talking a lot about the Eagles because I'm in Philadelphia. I know primarily my audience is in Philadelphia as far as the football fans are concerned. And I know that a lot of them really expect the Eagles to beef up the offense. But the reality is they need defensive help. They need 2 corners. They need help on the defensive line. They need help at linebacker. They need one more linebacker. I'm actually hoping Reuben Foster falls to the Eagles just so they can get their linebacking core really kicking in high gear, but I don't see that happening. Those who know me know I'm in a bizarre situation. I live in Philadelphia. I enjoy the Eagles, but I'm a Chargers fan, and I own season tickets to the Dallas Cowboys, if any of that makes sense to you. I know it sounds weird. I can't explain it myself. One makes me money, one is where my heart is, and one is where my home is. So, whatever. I'm a unique breed. What can I say? So, yeah, for all my Philadelphia fans out there, yes, I am not rooting against your Eagles just because I have Dallas Cowboys tickets. I always want to see the Eagles win the NFC, and I want them to win the NFC Championship in Dallas. That's what I want, just so I could sell the tickets. You know what I'm saying? And as far as the Chargers are concerned, I would love to see the Chargers go against the Eagles in the Super Bowl every single year. That would make me very happy. It's just my way of looking at things. So that's all the time I have for this episode. Check back with me when the draft is over. We'll do some post-draft analysis, talk about who did what, who went where, what trades went down. I'm sure that's going to happen. That's going to throw everything I just said out of whack. Somebody's going to trade up picks to pick up their quarterback. Maybe the Bills trade up to grab somebody. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the Jets will take the quarterback and shock me, and leave Josh McCown sitting on the sideline. But either way, check with us after the draft. Hopefully we'll have some post-draft analysis, and we'll get you guys just filled in as best we can. Until next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.